You're welcome to another session of the Clarity Challenge. During our last presentation, we were looking at some of the ways that you can help your partners with their weaknesses. And then we began to look at anger as a case study among several weaknesses. We said that the things we share under that example is going to be applicable some of the times in most other areas. Is just to lift up the principles and apply them. We asked ourselves three important questions we said we must ask if we are going to be able to position properly to help deal with weaknesses. And then we also talked about some of the things we must do and some of the things we must stop doing. We stopped at the point where we said there were 6 to 7 strengths that are critical if we are going to be able to swallow up, if we're going to be able to dissolve, if we're going to be able to cover our partner's weaknesses. Don't forget, continuously we have made it clear that strength is only useful to claim that you are strong in something, whereas your partner is weak in that area. That strength is only useful to the extent which it covers for, it makes for, it complements, it supplements for the weakness of our partners. Of what use is a strength when it only exposes your partner's weakness? Then that strength is of no use. The reason you are strong in one area in which your partner is weak is so that you can cover for them. The reason they are most likely going to be strong in an area you are weak is so that they will cover for you. It's a give and take thing. So in the things we share, we're not making you a victim of your partner's weakness. No, we're saying this is what to do to be able to navigate through weaknesses, because your partner also has a navigation to do in your own areas of weaknesses. So it's a give and take thing. It's one hand washing the other hand. This is so profound. And so today we are just going to continue with those strengths that are critical for us to be able to provide that covering for our partner, whether it's in a marital relationship, even if it's a son or a daughter struggling with one kind of weakness or the other. Sometimes your kids are dealing with drugs, some of them are dealing with all kinds of sexually perversive, addictions, all kinds of things. People get addicted to all kinds of things. Oftentimes, these addictions come from a desire to belong. So they get involved with the wrong people and begin to do all kinds of things. But what is key here is that they've been exposed to a lifestyle for such a long time. You don't develop an addiction over an 8-year period and expect to get over it in 8 days. No, it's not done. Do miracles happen? Yes, exceptional cases. So when it takes a long time to develop a lifestyle, it also requires certain processes, certain support from your social system, certain kind of enhancement are going to help in dealing with these lifestyles that have been developed over time. And the first strength, the first quality that I want to talk about is the quality of validation, the strength of validation. Listen to this. If you are going to be of any help to your partner, you must learn to validate them. You must learn to accept them, demonstrating that acceptance through validation. How do you validate somebody? Number one, you communicate clearly. Number two, you try to understand them. Then number three, you validate them. To validate a partner in their weakness, you will learn how to communicate clearly, because what communicating clearly effectively does is that it helps you understand them. Why? Until you understand them, understand their struggles, understand their pain, understand what they're dealing with, understand where they're coming from, understand what life is like, being in their shoes. Unless you get to that point of understanding, you can't validate them. No, you can't. Listen to this. People often act in an angry way. We're still using anger as a case study now. People often act in an angry way because they think, number one, they're not being heard. They think, number two, they're not being taken seriously. They think, number three, they are not being appreciated. Number one, they're not being heard. Number two, they're not being taken seriously. Number three, they're not being appreciated. So you have to understand where they're coming from, why they're swinging and switching and flaring up from time to time. If you don't understand what is the causal factor, you can't fix it. Listen, it's either they feel disappointed or they feel ignored. That's why people get angry. That's the truth. So if you have a challenge with your partner flaring up every now and then, getting angry every now and then, and you're like, what's going on here? Find out. Communicate with them. Discuss with them. In the moments of calmness, in the moments when everyone is happy, everyone is having fun, try to find out why they react the way they do. The next thing you want to take note of is that, listen, instead of looking for how to condemn them and justify yourself, why not get some humility and acquire skills to find out what it is? Ask questions. Don't ask questions like you are judging somebody. Don't ask questions like you're trying to condemn somebody. Don't ask questions like you're trying to justify yourself or fault them. No. Just listen, when you sincerely want to know, your partner knows. And they're going to open up to you. They're going to answer your questions. But if you try to inflame their anger by trying to justify yourself, not even when you think there is a legitimate ground for that. No. Now we're talking about the fact that they have a weakness for anger. So avoid inflaming their anger. Avoid it. Be intentional. Very intentional. Listen, it's wise to act actively in listening to them. Listen. Listen until you are sure that they feel heard and understood. Listen. Listen, it's not enough that you claim to be listening. You need to be seen to be listening. It's not enough. Listen, the art of listening is different from the art of hearing. It's possible to be hearing somebody, but you are not listening. Oftentimes, you are hearing with your ears, but you listen with your heart. And when you listen with your heart, there will be a connection. It is when there is a connection, then there can be a correction. I said that before. So you must be listening, actively listening, trying to interpret what they are saying, not concluding what they are saying for them. A lot of the time when we're listening to our partners, we have concluded what they have in mind because of we like to complete their statements for them because we're done. We've made up our mind what they're thinking. Some of us are amazing mind readers. I don't know where we learned that from. We're done. We're concluded. We have decided this, what they had in mind, this, why they were angry, this, why they reacted. I don't know where we get that from. No, you don't do that. Listen actively and know where they're coming from. Listen, get beneath the surface and try to understand. Get beneath the surface. Trying to understand your partner is critical for connection and for validating them. And once you're able to do that, what you will discover is that you're able to, number one, you're able to understand their deepest feelings. And then you are able to validate those feelings. And then you are able to validate those experiences. They are critical. Because until you understand their deepest needs, until you validate their feelings, until you validate their experiences, there will be no connection and they will keep flaring up. But you can't do all this without understanding them. You can't do that. But this is the truth. If we can manage, if we can navigate around the weaknesses of our spouses, of family members, of our kids, we will be able to have a great family. We'll be able to have a great marriage. We'll be able to have an incredible experience. Trust me. Trust me. The next thing you want to do is that you want to validate. Listen, validation is one way to communicate acceptance of yourself and your spouse. Validation is a fundamental way. Oh, I understand what you're going through. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I didn't get that. Oh, I understand. Wow, you've been through a lot. Oh, who does that? You mean they did that to you? Oh, while you were growing up, you validate. You come to understand with people. You come to see with people what their struggles are, what their deepest needs are, their sense of emptiness, how defeated they feel, and then they begin to sense that you care and that you understand. Listen, you can't imagine what dimension of difference that is going to bring in the entire narrative. This is so important. Now listen, everything I've said from episode 1 up till now, I'm not saying you are agreeing with everything that they are doing, or that you are agreeing with everything that they are saying. No. What I'm talking about is recognizing and considering things in their perspectives. Recognizing and seeing things from their perspective. This is so important. It's so important. The law of perspective is about accepting that life is not just about how you see things. No. Listen, when you understand the law of perspective, you know that there are many sides to everything. And no matter how hard you try, you can only see things oftentimes from one perspective. That you can see things from one perspective does not make you right. Neither does it make the other person seeing things from the other perspective wrong. You're right, they are right, but to be complete, you need to see them all the perspectives, make judgments, make decisions based on the different perspectives. So that's what it means to validate a person. You don't have to see things the way they see things, because you're not looking at things from the same place. You don't know their background, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what they've dealt with, you don't know what kind of stones and all kinds of stuff that life has thrown at them. Listen, the key to validation is being present. The key to validation is genuinely attempting to understand them. Genuinely, sincerely attempting to understand them. And the only way you can go about that is to listen. Listening to your partner. Listen to them, as well as getting connected between what they're saying and your own internal experience, such that you are able to stay with it, stay with what they're saying, stay with what they're feeling, instead of just pushing it away, instead of just avoiding it. There's a connection between your own internal experience. As you listen to what they're saying, you don't push them away. You don't treat what they're saying as inconsequential, as unimportant, as if it doesn't make sense. You know, one of the things that I realize oftentimes when people communicate, people easily say it's a lie. People easily say that's not true. People are quick to say, you know, it's kind of casting aspersion at somebody. If you don't understand what they're saying, say, okay, I'm trying to understand you. If you're not flowing with what people are saying, but this attitude of being in a hurry to say it's a lie, or that's not true, or you are lying, that's harsh. That's not standard communication. That's not an intention to understand somebody. No. Listen, you're going to shut them down emotionally. And trust me, that's going to create a gap physically, and it's going to mess things up. This is so profound. This is so important. The next thing you want to do, the other part of validation, is for you to accurately reflect what you hear when they are talking to you. You have to be able to accurately reflect. You are listening to understand. You are listening to reflect. So in effective communication, there is listening, there is reflection, there is interpretation. You have to listen. You take some time to reflect what they're saying. Then you take some time to interpret what they're saying, because unless you understand what they are saying, communication has not taken place. The onus of communication does not only lie on them, it also lies on the receiver in his capacity to reflect and interpret properly. And so to be able to interpret what they are saying properly, you do things like, what I hear you saying is this. Is that correct? Okay, you are saying this. Is that correct? They say, no, that's not what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Okay. So you are saying that you can't repeat that 3 times approximately and not arrive at what they're trying to communicate. Listen, if you do that, you will often realize that a lot of the times we don't understand what our partner is talking about. We don't understand what they're talking about because we're listening with our own experience. We're listening with our own perspectives. We're listening with our own background. We're listening with our own mindset, our own philosophy, our own belief system, our own worldview. But by the time you now start asking them, is this what you're saying? Okay, this is what I'm getting. You're saying that this happened, or this will happen, or that's. By the time you ask that again and again, they will clarify, then there will be connection, then validation becomes possible. If you don't do that, you don't get it. This is important. We must learn the art of validation if we will be able to help our partners in their weakness. Listen, we have to do this without assumption. If there is something you want to kill and kill it on time before it kills your relationship, it's assumption. You got to do this without assumption. You got to do this without being judgmental. You have to do this while trying to be clear on what they're saying, while trying to understand where they're coming from. You have to be calm. You have to be compassionate. You have to be empathetic. If you position yourself this way and appropriately, you will realize that you connect, you empathize, you validate, you support. Your partner brings down their defense system. They switch over from survival mode to connection mode. They become more open, they become more vulnerable, and before you know, there is bonding, there is communion, there is fellowship, there is love, there is beauty, and the outcome can be amazing. Give it some time, and you'll be amazed that over a period of time, the outbursts of anger begins to drop, begins to reduce. Over time, you can rarely find it. There's so much that we can do to get over stuff, and it's possible to live with your partner amicably if there is understanding and connection. I hope you got some value, and I hope this helps. Thank you so much for being a part of this broadcast. My name is Mason Ivy.